He saw her as just another target, another Tuesday, another moment of casual cruelty. What he didn't see, what he couldn't possibly know, were the invisible scars she already carried. This wasn't the first time a monster had crossed her path. She had endured this pain before, again and again, silently carrying the weight of past assaults that had chipped away at her soul long before he ever laid eyes on her. For him, this act of violence was as mundane as a daily meal. The story describes it as being like rice and curry to him, something routine, something normalized, something utterly devoid of humanity. This chilling detail reveals a terrifying truth. For some, cruelty isn't a shocking aberration. It's a part of their everyday existence. He wasn't just committing an act of violence. He was participating in a ritual of power that he felt entitled to, completely blind to the person in front of him. He didn't see a young woman with a history, with dreams, with a spirit that had been tested time and again. He saw an object for his gratification, and she, like so many survivors, had learned to be silent. Her resilience was a quiet, heartbreaking strength. She bore her pain in solitude, a reflection of a world that often leaves victims to navigate their trauma alone. Where were the systems meant to protect her? Where was the support network to catch her when she fell? Her story is a quiet indictment of a society that too often looks away, that allows predators to roam freely while their victims are trapped in a cage of fear and shame. The silence that surrounded her was as much a part of the violence as the act itself. This repeated trauma does more than leave physical marks. It reshapes a person's entire world. It changes how you see yourself, how you trust others, how you move through a world that suddenly feels unsafe at every turn. Every shadow seems to hold a threat. Every stranger's glance feels like a judgment. The psychological impact is a continuous, relentless echo of the initial event, a ghost that follows you long after the monster has gone. Her pain wasn't just in the moment of the assault. It was in every moment that followed, in the rebuilding of a self that had been shattered. Think about that phrase again, like rice and curry to him. It's a normalization of the unthinkable. This isn't just about one predator's lack of empathy. It's about a culture that can sometimes trivialize or ignore such deep-seated cruelty. When violence becomes routine for the perpetrator, it suggests a profound moral sickness that goes beyond one individual. It points to a darkness where human beings are reduced to mere instruments for someone else's fleeting desires. This casual cruelty is perhaps the most terrifying aspect of the story. Her story, while deeply personal, is tragically universal. She represents countless others whose pain goes unheard, whose battles are fought behind closed doors. For every story that makes it to the light, there are thousands that remain in the shadows, buried under layers of shame, fear, and a broken justice system. She is the face of the silent majority of survivors who walk among us, carrying burdens we can't see. Her journey is a dark repetition of a cycle that has claimed too many, a pattern of abuse that thrives in secrecy. But every cycle has the potential to be broken. This time, something might be different. Perhaps this assault, unlike the ones before, will be the one that cracks the silence. Maybe this time someone noticed. Maybe a piece of evidence was left behind. Or maybe, just maybe, she found a flicker of strength within herself to say, "No more." This moment of exposure, whether intentional or accidental, could be the turning point. It's the spark that could ignite a fire, bringing the truth out of the darkness and into the light, where it can be seen, acknowledged, and finally addressed. This narrative isn't just a story about a victim and a predator. It's a powerful message for all of us. It confronts society's complicity in silence and forces us to look at the horrifying reality behind normalized violence. It asks us, what is our role in breaking this cycle? How do we create a world where survivors feel safe enough to speak their truth? How do we build systems that protect the vulnerable instead of abandoning them? We must challenge the normalization of cruelty wherever we see it. We have to recognize that behind every statistic is a human being, a person with a story, with unseen battles and incredible resilience. The monster didn't know her pain, but we can. We can choose to listen, to believe, and to support. We can refuse to let these stories fade into the background. By bearing witness, we honor the strength of survivors and take a stand against the darkness that allows such acts to happen. We become part of the solution, part of the light that exposes the truth. This story is a call to action. It's a reminder that empathy is our most powerful weapon against cruelty. Let's create a culture where no one has to suffer in silence, where every person is seen, heard, and valued. Let's ensure that the next time a survivor's story is told, it ends not with a question of whether she will be believed, but with the certainty of justice and the promise of healing. Thank you so much for watching and for holding space for this important conversation. If this story resonated with you, please consider liking this video and subscribing to our channel for more content that aims to bring important issues to light. Your support helps us continue this vital work. Take care and be kind to one another. Imagine a girl, someone you might pass on the street every day. She carries a smile, maybe, or just a quiet look. But beneath that surface, she carries a weight so heavy it's almost unimaginable. This is a story about her, and about the monster who had no idea the pain she already held inside. This wasn't the first time. Long before the incident we're about to uncover, her world had already been shattered not once, but multiple times. She was a survivor, walking through life with invisible wounds, each one a silent testament to a battle she fought alone. Her trauma was a ghost that followed her everywhere, shaping her days, her fears, and her view of the world. It was a hidden pain, tucked away from sight, a secret she was forced to keep. Then he came into her life. To him, she wasn't a person with a history, with feelings, or with a soul already scarred. He didn't see the girl who was trying so hard to piece herself back together. He saw only a target, an opportunity. The monster didn't know her pain, and worse, he didn't care. His ignorance was not an excuse, it was a weapon. It allowed him to dehumanize her, to strip away her story until she was nothing more than an object for his cruelty. For this perpetrator, violence wasn't a shocking, terrible act. It was casual, routine. It was, in the chilling words used to describe his mindset, like rice and curry. Think about that, something as normal and everyday as a meal. This phrase reveals a terrifying level of depravity, complete and utter lack of empathy. It shows us a mind where inflicting pain on others is so normalized that it carries no more weight than deciding what to eat for dinner. This wasn't a moment of madness, it was just another Tuesday for him. This everyday cruelty is perhaps the most horrifying part of the story, and through it all, she endured. She bore the weight of this new trauma on top of the old, her silence a heavy shield. Like so many survivors, she was trapped in a cycle of fear and shame, believing she had to carry this burden alone. Her resilience was both a source of incredible strength and a heartbreaking reflection of a world that often fails to protect its most vulnerable. She kept walking, kept breathing, kept existing, even when every part of her wanted to crumble. Her silence wasn't weakness. It was a survival mechanism in a world that hadn't given her a reason to speak up. Where was the help? Where was the protection? Her story subtly points to a broken system, a system that fails to see the patterns, to connect the dots, to offer a safe harbor before the storm hits again and again. Whether it was a lack of family support, community awareness, or a justice system that is slow and often re-traumatizing, she was left unprotected. The cycle of violence was allowed to continue because the structures that should have stopped it were absent or ineffective. This isn't just one girl's story. It's the story of a systemic failure that leaves countless victims in the shadows. The impact of these assaults wasn't just physical. The bruises fade, the cuts heal, but the psychological wounds can last a lifetime. Trauma rewires the brain. It reshaped how she saw herself, tainting her self-worth and planting seeds of doubt and fear. It changed how she saw the world, turning a place that should feel safe into a landscape of potential threats. Every stranger's glance, every unexpected noise could trigger a cascade of anxiety. This is the unseen battle that survivors fight long after the physical event is over. It's a constant, exhausting war waged inside their own minds. Let's return to that haunting phrase, like rice and curry to him. This normalization of cruelty is a poison in our society. It highlights a mindset where power, control, and violence are seen as acceptable tools. When such acts are treated as mundane, it creates a culture of impunity. It tells perpetrators that their actions have no real consequences and tells victims that their pain doesn't matter. It's a dangerous and destructive worldview that allows monsters to walk among us, convinced of their own normalcy while they shatter lives. We must understand that this girl's story, while deeply personal, is tragically not unique. She represents a dark repetition, a pattern of suffering that echoes in the lives of countless unnamed, unheard victims. For every story that comes to light, there are thousands that remain buried in silence. Her pain is the pain of many, a collective anguish that society too often chooses to ignore. She is the face of the silent majority who suffer behind closed doors, their resilience mistaken for acceptance. But this time, something might be different. This particular assault, unlike the ones before, could be a turning point. Perhaps someone saw something. Perhaps a piece of evidence surfaced. Or perhaps, after bearing so much for so long, something inside her finally broke through the silence. This moment of exposure, this crack in the wall of secrecy, is a glimmer of hope. It's the chance for the truth to finally come out, not just for her, but for all the times she suffered before. It's the moment the cycle could finally be broken. This story is more than just a shocking tale. It's a powerful message. It confronts our collective silence and our tendency to look away from uncomfortable truths. It forces us to see the profound cruelty lurking behind acts of normalized violence. It asks us to do more than just feel sympathy. It asks us to be vigilant, to listen, and to act. It challenges us to build a world where a survivor's pain is never invisible, and where a monster's cruelty is never ever considered normal. If you've been moved by this story, please share it. The more we talk about these difficult subjects, the more we can chip away at the silence that protects perpetrators. Thank you for watching, and please consider subscribing for more content that aims to bring important stories to light.